Daf Mem Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. Continue on with the discussion about Rechitza on Shabbos. Itma Cham and Shochem Erev Shabbos. If water was heated up Erev Shabbos. Rav Amar L'Mochar on Shabbos, the next day Ma'al Mochar Roiches Behen Kol Gufoy Aver. He can wash his whole body, but not at one time. He can't bathe in his whole body, but he can wash the entire body one aver at a time, one limb at a time. Sachakol, in sum total, he's washing his whole body, but not at the same time. Aver. Ushmuel Omar lo yitiru lirchoetz al apanav yadav v'raglov. And Shmuel says no, he can't wash his whole body, even if it's not at the same time, even if it's aver. He can only wash panav yadav v'raglov, his face, his hands, his feet. Mesei ask a kasha to Rav Cham in Shehochem Erev Shabbos. If the water was heated up Erev Shabbos, L'mocha Reichetz Behem Panav Yadav V'Raglov Avaloi Kol Gufoy. The next day it says clearly he can wash Panav Yadav V'Raglov, but not his whole body. Tiyufta de Rav, it's a kasha de Rav. Amalach Rav. Now, how will he answer it? He'll say, Loi kol gufa b'vasachas. It says, when it says Loi kol gufa, it doesn't mean his whole body. It means his whole body at the same time is also. He can't wash his whole body at the same time. Ela aver. Only one limb at a time. When it says Loi kol gufa, it doesn't mean that in sum total it can't be his whole body. It means it can't be his whole body at the same time. Ela aver, one limb at a time. Well, it says only Panav Yadav V'Raglov, not his whole body, only his face, his hands and feet. Rav answers, Ke'ein Panav Yadav V'Raglov. It means Ke'ein Panav Yadav, meaning one aver at a time, one limb at a time. Tashma, bring you a right from the following. Lo yitiru lirchetz bechamin shehuchum be'erev Shabbos. They did not permit that water, even though it was heated up Erev Shabbos, you cannot use it on Shabbos, bathe on Shabbos, ela panav yadav v'raglov. Only panav yadav v'raglov is a kasha and Rav. He'll answer, hachinami, he'll answer, no, kein panav yadav v'raglov. What it means is kein panav yadav v'raglov. However, Tanya Gavasa de Shmuel, we have a clear brisa that supports Shmuel, which is a kasha and Rav. Cham in shehochem Erev Shabbos, if cham in shehochem Erev Shabbos, l'mochar Reichetz Behen Panav Yadav V'Raglov. He can only bathe Panav Yadav V'Raglov Avaloi Kol Gufoy Aver. And it says clearly beferish, but not his whole body, even if it's aver. Ve'ein Sorach Loimer Chamin Shehuchma B'Yontev. And certainly Chamin, the water that was heated up on Yontev. On Yontev, it's mutter oichol nefesh. It's mutter to heat up water for drinking, but for bathing, it's also even kol aver, certainly the water that was heated up on Yontev. So therefore you see clearly it says beferish that it's only panav yadav and not kol gufa, even aver. It's a tiyufta, it's a kasha on Rav. Rav Masalash might say the Rabbi Lishna. He has a different version of what Rav said and the Shakal V'Tarya. He learns as follows: Cham in Shehochem Erev Shabbos. If the water was heated up Erev Shabbos, L'mochar, for the next day, Amarav Reichetz Behen Kol Gufoy. You can even bathe his whole body, even at the same time. However, Umishayir Ever, as long as one limb is left out, you can bathe the whole body, wash the whole body, as long as one limb is left out. So it's even a bigger kula than the first version. Esvei Kol Hana Tiyufta. We have now all the kashas that we had before. And they're all kashas, and the Rishonim point out in Rashi that according to this version over here, we can't even try to be miyashiv the first two kashas like we tried in the first approach. Here, all of these kashas, all these brises are a kasha because it's not even ke'ein panav yadav v'raglov. Here in this version, he says his whole body at the same time, as long as you leave out one aver. So all of the brises that are mentioned before are a kasha and Rav, tiyufta, and it's a tiyufta and Rav. He asked, Abaye, Abaye was raised by Rabba, so he knew what the minhagim of Rabba were. And Rabba, as we'll see, generally followed the shita of Rabba. So he asked, Rav Yosef, who became the Rosh Hashiva after Rabbi, he asked Abaya, how was Rabbi noig? Was he noig in this manner like Rav? Amalei lo yadana. He says, I don't know. What's a shayla? Pshita dolei Avid. Of course he did not follow Rav in this matter. The high Taisa, because we asked the Tiyufta on Rav. And it's clearly that Brisa says that it's only Panav Yad Baragel like Shmuel says. So what's the shayla? The Gemara says, Lo Shmielei. He didn't hear the kashas. These kashas is where Rav was the Taisa of the Tiyuftas. He didn't hear it, so he had the shayla. Frankly, more of Lo Shmielei. Well, if he didn't hear that he was the Taisa, if he didn't hear these Brisas that are a kasha and Rav, and that Rav's a Tiyufta, if he didn't, then what's the shayla? Then certainly Rav would have held like Rav, because we know that in general terms he always follows Rav. Abaye said everything Rav Mar, it's called Rav. He was always noig Rav, and all of the bar mehanet klas, except for these three exceptions. Except for these three cases, Dovid Shmuel, where he's not like Shmuel. What are these three exceptions? Matil and mi beged lebeged. You can take tzitzis off one beged, an old beged, and attach it to the new beged. It's not considered a bizoyan. Umadlik and miner lener, and you can light the Hanukkah lit from one candle of one to the other. It's not considered that it's a bizoyan mitzvah. Chusha mitzvah halacha Rav Shimon begreira. It's halacha Rav Shimon begreira that he held like Rav Shimon ador shein miskavin. That he held that you can drag an item, a chair, a bench, on the floor, even though it might make a charitz, it might make a faro, and if it does, it can either be a chayrish or baina. We're not concerned about that as long as it's not a psik reisha, because we paskin like Rav Shimon that a davar shein miskaven is mutter. So you see clearly that he holds like Rav. He always follows the sheet of Rav. So what's your shayla? Or answers kechumra de Rav Avid kekula de Rav loy Avid. He follows Rav the chumras, but not the kulas. And the point, case in point over here, is a kula. So that's why he didn't hear that the kashas, he didn't hear that Rav is itaisiv, and he wanted to know, in this case, would he have followed the kula of Rav or not? Yeah, Tan Rabbanon Merachat Shapak Kudnikov Erev Shabbos. If you have a Merachat that's Pakakudnikov Erev Shabbos. The way they made the Merachats, the bathhouses in those days, is they had the fire on the basement and the floor, and the heat used to rise up, and they used to have vents, and that the heat could rise up and heat the area in the bathhouse on top. So if you have a Merachat Shapakakudnikov of Erev Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos already they closed up the vents so that the heat was not rising. So whatever was in the bathhouse was not heated up on Shabbos. So nothing over there was heated on Shabbos. Now something, if the water was heated on Shabbos, then it cannot be used for bathing. And it cannot be used for bathing, and we'll see as far as Mezia, the Gemara will discuss as far as also for perspiring, to use it as a shvitz. So, a merachat shepakuk Erev Shabbos, if the vents are closed Erev Shabbos. So therefore, the water is, what's hot over there is not being heated on Shabbos. The Motzei Shabbos, Roichs B'miyad. On Motzei Shabbos, you can bathe immediately, because whatever heat there is over there, the hot water, it got heated up from before Shabbos. So you don't have to wait b'chdei sheyasa. If something was heated up on Shabbos, you can't get any benefit from that because it's also. So you'd have to wait, let's say Shabbos, enough time, you'd have to wait the duration of time that it would take to heat it up from after Shabbos. If it would take, for instance, it would take 3 hours to heat up the water from the beginning, from heated up from after Shabbos, it would take 3 hours to get it to heat it up. You would have to wait 3 hours before you could use this hot water. But since over here it was Pakaku, we know that it was Pakaku Nekavav. They were closed up the vents so the water did not get hot on Shabbos. It wasn't driving, it wasn't getting heated up on Shabbos. The heat was from before Shabbos. You can use it immediately. You don't have to wait b'chnei sheyas. So Motzei Shabbos roichs b'miyad, Pakaku Nekavav Erev Yontiv. And similarly, if it was closed up on Erev Yontiv, l'machar nichnas mezia, then the next day you can go in and it can be mezia, You can perspire over there. You can use it as shlit. And then you can rinse yourself off on the outside area, on the outside chamber, not on the inside, because on the inside, people will think that he bathed over there, but dafka on the outside. They closed up the vents. The next day they went in to be miziyah, and they went out, and they went and they rinsed themselves off in the Bais HaChitzon. But there was another reason to be matir, another precaution. But the baths, they were covered with boards. So there is a further precaution over here, because since they were covered with boards, there is now, people wouldn't even think that, and it was not really even able to become heated up on Shabbos. Not only was it pocket in the kavav, but also it was the chamin shaloi, the baths were covered with boards, so it certainly was not heated up on Shabbos. So there was this extra precaution over here. So they went in to be miziyah, to perspire, and they rinsed themselves out in the outer chamber, and they were allowed to do that. When this matter came before the Chachamim, Amru, they said, they said, even if it's not covered, it's still not necessary. However, when people when there was an increase in the oivre avera, they started to aser the bathhouses of the krachim. They aser the perspiring, the mezia, in the bathhouses in the cities, the larger bathhouses. So we'll see shortly what do we mean Rabbo Avera, which Oivre Avera, why is it Dafka Krachin? But when it's Rabbo Oivre Avera, they aser the bathhouses of the Krachin, of the large cities, but Lawson Bazishal Krachin, Metail Ben Vena Chayshish. They didn't allow you to sit there and be Mezia, but they allowed to walk through. Since it's not inevitable that he's going to be Mezia, they allowed it to walk through these large bathhouses, and it's not inevitable they're going to be Mezia, and it's walking through, but to be Mezia, to sit there and for perspiring, to use it as a shvitz, to use it as a sauna, they answered it. Now the Gemara will explain. My Oivre Avera, what is the Oivre Avera? They said, Mishi's Oivre Avera. The Omer of Shimon Pazi, Omer of Shimon Levi, Mishum Bar Kapar. But Chilo Hayu Reichsim Bechamin Shofim Erev Shabbos. In the beginning, they permitted people to be Reichs with Chamin Shofim Erev Shabbos. They permitted people, if the water was heated up before Shabbos, they allowed people to bathe with that water. But hischilu habalonim lahachim b'Shabbos. But there is hischilu oivre avera, and the bathhouse attendants were starting to heat up the water on Shabbos. And they said it was heated up from before Shabbos. So they started, either Poshet Pshat is that they mamish were b'chal Shabbos, they heated up the water, and they said they heated it up from Erev Shabbos, or alternatively, some learn that they didn't mamish heat it up on Shabbos, but they allowed the water to become heated on Shabbos. Not that they actually fired up the fire, not that they actually over a malach d'oraisa, but they allowed the water to become hot during the Shabbos from water that was heated before Shabbos. So therefore, also as a chamin v'jir sazer. So at that point, they asered using water, even if the water was heated up before Shabbos. Now, so essentially, water that was heated before Shabbos, you could bathe with it, you can wash with it. It was only because of this gzera, because they were afraid that if we allow to use water that was heated before Shabbos, either people will heat up water on Shabbos and say they heated up Erev Shabbos, or that people will have the water heated up. They'll use water that was heated on Shabbos, and they'll use that. Now, what's the problem of using water that was heated, that became hot on Shabbos? We learned before that in the case of the merchatzoyes, they closed up the vents. Now, what is really the problem of having water that the fire was made before Shabbos, and now the water is becoming hot during the Shabbos. Why is that a problem? There's no malacha being done over here. The fire was created before Shabbos. What is the problem that the water in the bathhouse is becoming hot during the Shabbos? So the Ran explains, because just like we have by Bishul, we're afraid if the water is becoming hot, it's being heated up on Shabbos, even though the fire was created before Shabbos, he might stoke the fire, might stir the coals, stoke the fire, and come lidei avara. So therefore, you cannot use water that became hot, that was heated up during the Shabbos, even if the fire was created before Shabbos. Now, theoretically, initially, if the fire was created before Shabbos and the water became hot before Shabbos, it should be mutter. However, they answered it because they were afraid that people will use water that was heated up during the Shabbos. So they answered that the chamin, but still, they still permitted to use it as a sauna. But still it became a problem because people roichitz bechamin, they were bathing with hot water, and they said we're only using it as a sauna. So then they made a further gzeira, they answered the zeya, and they permitted Chamei Tferi to use the hot water, the natural hot water, the natural spring hot water of Chamei Tferi. But still was a problem because people were continuing to use Chamei or water that was heated up from the fire. And they said we're only using Chamei Tferi. So then they increased a further gzeira, they asked even Chamei Tferi, but they permitted cold water. And they saw that people could not stand with that. There was a takana she'ena tzibri chum lamed by, that they could not live up to that standard. Now they went back and they hitiru lahem Chamei Tveria. They permitted Chamei Tveria v'zeya b'mekayim medes. But the zeya, to use it as a sauna, is they kept the isra and they remained it with the isra. So as we said before, essentially Mikra Din, soin and cold water is mutter, but we are noyeg not to bathe in cold water either. We see from this Maisa, Haiman the Avra the Rabban, if someone is Ivra on an Isra the Rabban, and Shoyle Mikvela Avaryana, is permitted to call him an Avaryana, because we dealing over here with a Takana the Rabban. We're dealing over the Isra the Rabban. And it says, and we said over here, when it says, Rabu Ivrei Avera, it says, when Shirabu Ivrei Avera, then they were Masakin and they answered it. So, and see, even though it's a Isser D'Rabbanan that we're dealing with, it's still permitted to call them an Ivrei Avera, Avrayana. Kiman Kihai Tana. It's like this Tana that we said before, which says, Mishihischelu Ivrei Avera. So we said we said that the bathhouses in the larger cities, that you can walk through, that you can't sit there and use it as a sauna, but you can walk through it, and even though inadvertently he might become perspire, it's motor vena chayshish, which is mashma that in the small cities it's only in the large cities. It's only in the big cities, in the villages, like. It's also my time I came into Zutra Nafish Hevlayu, because in the small villages and the small cities and small towns, the bathhouses are smaller and the heat intensity is greater. So even walking through it, he will perspire. It's considered like being mizia. In the large cities, there are large bathhouses. The heat intensity is not so great. Walking through it is not considered like sitting in a sauna. But in these villages, even walking through it's also because it's considered like he's being mezia.